All right.
Hey, Cathy.
Oh my gosh. So Ziza got firsthand how sometimes technology for me is really awry. And that today it
No, for me
really went
too.
awry. I mean, this is super awry. But anyway, we are going to have our hang anyway, and then I'll post
Absolutely.
this later.
Awesome. Awesome. They're all good, Cathy. I mean, the kids I teach, they teach me about these things always. I literally sit there with a
Absolutely.
notebook. How do you do this? Okay.
Oh, I know. Totally, totally true. And
Anyway.
actually, what I do first want to do is
Hmm.
play some of your music. So we're gonna
Hmm.
go see. Is this the SB Jazz?
Yeah, Standard Bank Jazz National Arts Festival 2 years ago. It was really great. I mean, it's usually live, and then the pandemic started, and we were still able to do this online. It's the very first time they were doing it online, and so we pre-recorded in a theater in Johannesburg, and then the video was played on the National Festival website
Oh,
as
cool.
part of the online festival. Yeah.
Is this one song? I might.
It's three
Okay.
songs.
All
First three
right.
of our set. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's hear this. Oops, I didn't start at the beginning.
Mhm.
You between the lines of my thoughts, you between my hands under my fingers, you between the music in the soft whisper of my voice, you between my hands as the water washes down my face, you a quiet whisper which listens to my thoughts, your simple ways which open my heart. Yes, you again, you walk my eyes, my lips, that's what you do. Yes, you move it like a thief. You steal the moments you between the lines of my thoughts, you are between my hands and my fingers, you between the music in the soft whisper of my voice, you between my hands as the water washes down my face, you a quiet whisper which listens to my thoughts in simple ways, you open my heart, yes, you again, you walk my eyes, my lips, that's what you do. Yes, you move in like a thief. You steal the moments you are. za Sydney Nisi. Moses, you between the lines of my thoughts, you between my hands under my fingers, you between the music in the soft whisper of my voice, you between my hands as the water washes down my face. You are quiet whisper which listens to my thoughts, your simple ways which open my heart. Yes, you again, you. That's what you do. Yes, you're moving like a thief. You steal the moments you. Yes, you're moving like a thief. You steal the moments you. Yes, you're moving like a thief. You steal the moments you. That was Bekim Seleku's Homeboys. I just wrote the lyrics to it. My name is Ziza. I'm a performing musician based here in Joburg. I've introduced some of the musicians, Sydney Mnisi on the tenor and flute, and Roland Moses on the piano, but also Peter Skler on the bass and Peter Red on the drums.
Wow, fantastic. So cool.
Thanks, Cathy.
I love that.
A little bit of South African jazz, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that's some serious jazz there.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Bekim Seleku, who is one of our just icons. And yeah, that was some serious jazz. South African and American, and yeah, some good groove, and I love opening. I love using it as my opening song because it just sets such a great mood, and it's got a great groove, and of course it's a sort of a blues form, so it just opens up for many solos and warms everyone up nicely. But it's the groove, and every drummer plays it slightly differently as well.
Yeah.
It's that like 12/8 kind of like feel. But yeah, no, I love improvising over it and singing it and sitting in it.
Yeah, you're a very unusual. It feels unusual to watch you perform too, and I was trying to figure out why. I wasn't sure, but do you have comments about that?
In what way, Cathy?
Your presence,
Mm-hmm.
it's great. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I have to watch you a lot, and see why I think why I'm kind of impressed with your unique presence. I'm not sure why.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I guess maybe it's just this multicultural sort of upbringing of mine, maybe.
Yeah.
And then there I am standing in front of the jazz groovers, swinging, and maybe all of that kind of like gives you that kind of maybe the impression that you are feeling, but it must be this, yeah, the multicultural background of mine, perhaps, perhaps
Yeah.
that perhaps it's the fact that I really am a muser, kind of muser, and so performing for me, I enjoy it very much, and it's very important, and you learn so much, obviously, performing. It's not my favorite thing. I'm more of a, like a, introvert in that way. I love creating something and sitting and practicing and doing my little arrangements, and I love the rehearsals, for example, where you can like try things and get to know each other. So maybe it's just a combination of things that gives you that impression. But I'd love to know, if you get a chance to watch more of my videos, to tell me, what it is that you
Yeah.
think. I'd appreciate your comment
Well,
greatly.
I love it. It's very, it's probably just very authentic and, like you say, multicultural, and just standing in front of or with amongst
Mm-hmm.
those players,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of edgy. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
Cathy.
edgy, and I dig it because it is kind of
Thank you.
edgy. It's like, um, it's a very confident, you
Mm-hmm.
know, you're coming
Mm-hmm.
from uh, communication that's confident. It's very nice.
Sure.
I like
Sure.
it.
Yeah, thank you, Cathy. I also play with musicians that are really good friends of mine.
Yeah,
And as you know, that also makes a difference. And I feel that's what I love. One of the things I love about jazz, it's this just, let's use a word, democracy within the band.
right.
Everybody, listens to each other. Everyone's there to support one another. Like my piano teacher said that Roland, the pianist, he's my body, my what does she call, my bodyguard. And I'm like, yeah, I guess he is.
That's funny.
He's there. Even if I go a bit off, he'll like make it sound like I haven't really gone there.
That's very funny.
Yeah, bodyguard. I know, but I agree with her fully.
Yeah, yeah, it's really nice when whether you know the people well or not, but when
Mm,
that's one of the beauties of jazz, especially.
mm,
You can be traveling on a similar wavelength, and
mm,
start the music,
mm,
and because you
mm,
act a certain way and the other people act similarly, then
mm.
you create this beautiful magical moment in time.
Absolutely. I was listening to your album, the live album from Japan, and I also loved your conversation with your pianist. I mean, I just noticed so many details that just made me so happy, that again, just think, that's why I love jazz, those moments.
That guy and
Mm.
I, we definitely had that when we first met. We were put together by the Japanese, promoter, and
Okay. So
it
you,
was,
up until that concert, you didn't know
well, not that
this person?
concert. That
Ah.
concert we had been working together a little while,
Mm-hmm,
but in the beginning we were just
mm-hmm.
put together. We didn't know each other before, and
Wow.
it was great. And I learned so much from him, and he says he
Sure.
learned a lot from me because we traveled for probably, I think it was about 20 years to Japan
Mm-hmm,
and a little bit to
mm-hmm,
Europe. But
mm-hmm.
yeah, we had a very fluid conversation,
Mm-hmm.
musical.
Yeah, you could hear.
Yeah, it was
You
really
can
nice.
hear. It's
I was
gorgeous.
just thinking, I did a gig last week. I had a gig, and I had a long week. I was kind of a little bit stressed, which is not my
Hmm.
normal my normal way, but I was a little stressed, and so I got to the gig. I had a set up front, and then we have a jam session. So
Hmm.
a trio, and
Hmm.
I'm pretty familiar with everybody, and I just decided, instead of, like, bringing out some of the more complicated stuff, I'm just going to do
Hmm.
standards and mess around with them.
Sure.
And that it was the most fun. Oh my God.
Wow,
We were all messing around and there was lots of space and it
amazing.
was really musical, you know.
Yeah,
It was
I was
everybody
gonna say it
was
sounds
really,
like it.
yeah, it was
Mm,
great. And I'm telling you,
mm.
after the set, I was like, thank you. I really needed that healing. Thank you. You know, it was great.
Oh, every time, every time. Sometimes it happens with my like I get booked for like background gigs, literally people eating and you're sort of at the back of the restaurant tinkling standards. And then I'll probably sit and play the piano and sing and I'll hire a bassist or something. And also I think because no one's listening, you really kind of zone in on each other and you're creating this beautiful sort of like things. And always you get people come up or they'll specifically move the table to like listen to us. And I almost, well, I don't want to say we're background, but we become like a feature thing and it's beautiful.
That is really nice, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's how
Anyway,
they say, you know, in a loud room, don't play louder, play softer.
yeah. You know where I read that is the Victor Wooten's book, The Music Lesson. Have
Yeah,
you read it?
I have read it.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a great
it's
book.
on that and my teacher. Teaching is teaching. There's a teacher and the teacher, but it's even with teaching, you got to know the right timing. So my piano teacher gave me that book at the right time, just before this one gig. I couldn't even play the piano, honestly, and I played it like I knew how to play the piano just by reading that book. And I think at that point, she really just wanted to give me that book just to maybe boost up my confidence because I just didn't think that I could play anything. And I love that book. I have it. I bought it. It's wonderful. And at some point, he says they were playing at some bar in Nashville or something, and people were too loud, and then the whole band started playing soft, and everybody started to listen.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a really interesting book. I like books like that. I've
very.
read,
Yeah, I love it.
you know, 25 years ago, right? It was Kenny Werner's book, Effortless Mastery.
Yes,
And,
yes,
are
I
you
have
familiar?
that.
Are you familiar with Free Play?
No, who's that? Who wrote that? Free play.
You're
I'm
gonna want to.
writing it
You're gonna.
down.
You're gonna want to read that. It's by a man named Stephen Nachmanovich, and he is
Uh-huh.
an
Free
improvisational
play.
violinist. And
Oh,
Free Play, and then the subtitle is Improvisation in Life and the Arts.
oh my gosh, goosebumps. Oh yay, I'm getting this book. Yay.
It's the kind of book. It's like a Bible book, you know.
Yeah.
You read it anywhere you open it. It's like he's talking to you, and it's
Oh my gosh,
absolutely.
wow.
What's interesting is both of those guys wrote their books around the same time, and then last year they both
Mhm.
came out with a second book.
Oh,
And I don't know if you've read Kenny's second book,
mm-mm.
Being the Instrument.
It sounds familiar, but I don't think no, I didn't read it. No,
I
being an instrument.
I highly recommend that too. If you
I'm
liked Effortless
writing it
Mastery,
down.
yeah, it's the second book of his is like an expansion, and it's a really beautiful expansion. And Berkeley made an effortless
Yeah.
mastery department, right? 7 years ago. And
Wow. And
he runs it.
what is that about?
It's
Oh,
it's
this
about
concept,
effortless
obviously.
mastery, it's about
Mm,
being okay with the process and being in the moment and not beating
yeah.
yourself up, but rather being in the moment and you know and you know right,
Mm,
instead of, oh, that was
mm,
terrible,
mm.
instead of that. So, but I really love books like that. That's,
Yeah.
I have lots. I don't know about you, but I have lots of books by the side of my bed. And
Mm,
try
mm.
and I just recently reread the Four Agreements. Have you ever read that?
Mm-mm.
It's a
Who's that?
very small book,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
it was written by a Native American,
mm-hmm,
and talks about his tribe's
mm-hmm,
philosophical and spiritual
mm-hmm,
teachings and
mm-hmm,
understandings. And
mm-hmm.
it's great. It's only
Wow.
four simple agreements, but it
Mhm.
really makes you think. Like after I read it, I
Mhm.
really started noticing in life, like what, you know, exactly what it was talking about. It was very,
Wow.
very cool. I love stuff like that.
I do too. And did you get the Quincy Jones's book? It's also
Yes.
recently. I bought it. It's actually in LA with my sister, but it's gonna be shipped. It's gonna be shipped soon. Um,
Fantastic.
I'm I'm looking forward to reading that. Yeah, I think he's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, there's so much wonderful stuff out there and
Um,
things to listen to, and then there's
mm,
music. I mean,
uh,
we have a lot to inspire us and to take us into a particular feeling, don't we?
Definitely, I think it's a great time to be a musician. I mean, it doesn't always, bring in the
Yeah,
bacon, as they say. I don't know about you. I mean,
yeah,
teaching does for me. That's
yeah,
what pays the bills. The
yeah,
gigs, not really, but they feed the soul.
yeah,
But what a wonderful time to be a creative and a musician. I think people are generally very lost and stressed. I mean, even in my own family, our dad listens to music just on his phone, but he does, and he sings out of key. But the rest of my family, I've asked them, do you listen to music? And often they say they don't, not even in the car. And I think that's so sad. how come, how can you go through a day and not listen to music? Or, yesterday I wrote a piece. I literally sat down and I just wrote it. I had 4 bars. It was like an idea that came to my mind in November 2020, and I recorded it on my phone. I've got all these ideas, but never really time to sit and record. And yesterday was, or at least write it out. Yesterday was the time for this particular tune. So I started from 4 bars and it just poured out of me. And Cathy, so many people, it moved so many people. And then I was like just thinking about it. I'm like, wow, I mean, I guess we are not in control of these things. Like yesterday, literally, something told me that I had to write this tune, and I did. It's just a page. I don't know how many bars, maybe 32 bars. And yeah, I got so many compliments of people that don't even comment on my posts to say, I really love it and it's so moving. And yeah, it's the thing about music, isn't it? And timing, I suppose, as well.
Well, yeah, okay. We're really going through the door. My favorite doorway. But yeah, I mean, first of all, there's so many things that touches on for me. I mean, one thing is that the muse is always floating around, and
Mm,
there's a book that I've read that has talked about that too. And when you're open to the
mm,
muse will come through you. If you're not open, it'll just go by you and go somewhere else. And
right.
and um, the I mean, when you think about, like, as you say, 32 bars,
Mm,
that has actually changed. Um, you could call it various things. You could call it changed reality. You could say
mm,
changed vibrations, or
mm,
But this area you have changed, and
right.
every time you go there, it's the same thing.
Mm,
You
mm,
have created something that is
mm,
really unchangeable. It's done.
mm,
I mean, it
mm,
can, of course,
mm,
you can use it and
mm,
change it in the moment and stuff, but
mm,
really
mm,
that thing is always done, always there.
mm,
And
mm,
and how it affects how, how it affects reality as we know it, how it affects
mm,
um, humans who hear it, or
mm,
uh, or one human will hear it and that
mm,
changes their vibration, and then
mm.
everybody they're attached to gets
Yeah.
a resulted change.
Mm,
And then of course I always swing around to because you can't help see what's happening politically on the planet. I mean,
mm,
it's just so
mm,
surreal what's happening,
mm,
and which always leads me back, because obviously you are too, a glass half full person,
mm,
right?
mm,
So
mm.
it's really hard to
Sure.
get me to say the glass is half empty. So um, when I do start thinking about the politics and the what's going on,
Mm,
and you have to you have to for a minute you have to go, shit, this is really horrible, and what
mm,
the hell is happening, what's going to happen, and but then
mm,
quite naturally I, that seems to drop away for me, and then
mm,
then I go
mm,
places like, this is really just my own creation anyway. All of this awareness
mm,
is me, is my
mm,
creation.
mm, mm,
So what? So that's
uh-huh,
interesting that I'm
mm,
looking at that or creating
mm,
that, and
mm,
so then I guess I get in more responsible and in control
mm,
of
mm,
everything that I know about, and
mm.
so and music, and
Yeah,
it actually makes me want to be creative more, so that I fill
definitely.
up the space with that thing that we're talking about,
Definitely, definitely. I mean, since the pandemic, it's been obviously horrible in the initial lockdowns and everything, but I've just had this like newly restored energy to just do everything I can in one day and to teach and to make people happy and to practice and if I don't gig, it's okay. I've got so much to do. There's Cathy, if you can believe me, there is like literally I have like a whole file of titles that I want to transcribe. Literally, it's a book. I discovered it the other day and I just said, oh shit. Okay, so now put it in my diary. Okay, August is a bit of a school holiday, so I'll have a bit of free time. I'm gonna get transcribing. There's so much to do. Like,
There's so
you
much to
know.
do. Actually, I'll share with you too. Okay, you see this file, this
Yes.
28 pages of ideas that I
Oh
am working,
wow.
and they're in
Wow.
different
I've got
categories,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
and actually I'm just having a realization about this list that it's okay for it to exist, and I don't have to
Yeah.
worry that I'm not getting to everything. I can just, it's fine. I'm not
You can,
frozen in time because of
yeah.
this. I'm still
No.
doing stuff. So, I'll get
We'll
to,
get to it.
yeah, yeah. But so, yeah, so there we are again. We're similar in that way too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we were talking about people we play with. So I don't know, like, what you do when you get called for a gig. But I usually, so let's say I get that call and they're saying, okay, they want the trio or they want the full band. I think about who I feel like playing with, to be honest with you. Like depending on my mood, depending on what the venue is, do I want somebody with a big sound or do I want somebody who is more a painter? Do I want whatever? It's actually boils down to what I'm going over in my mind and what my mood is. And then I'll pick up that phone and I'll book musicians. But you were saying the bassist, I mean, there's always a shortage of bassists in Johannesburg.
Really?
It's quite bad. Yeah, it's really bad. And to be honest with you, last few that I played with the upright bass, they didn't play in tune. So I mean, sometimes that's the vibe, but sometimes it
Yeah.
isn't when you know, when it's a bit off, it's okay. Like
Yeah.
maybe in the blues or whatever.
Yeah.
But if they're playing new songs, like let's say my originals, and they're a bit off key, ooh. So yeah, so
Yeah. It can
it's quite
be,
a tricky one.
it's a challenge. It's really a challenge. Yeah. And
Mm,
also I'm sensitive to the who, who would like who, you know. Would
exactly.
the
Yeah,
piano player be really pissed off that he was playing with this bass player, or does
definitely.
he have a little more allowance in his heart?
Mm, mm, mm,
Can
mm,
he kind of sit through a guy, who's not that great? And I
mm,
mean,
mm,
sometimes that just happens. You really
mm,
can't do anything about it, but you can try, you know.
mm, mm, mm,
But yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, there's a lot of people here that to play with, and a lot of different
mhm,
things you can
mhm,
do. And
mhm,
I'm not always doing like the great gig. I'm doing a lot of
mm, mm,
um, just kind of medium gigs, so who am I going to get? And
Mm-hmm.
also, I've been working with this one bass player a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
I like a lot of bass players, so
Mm,
maybe I should try and get the gig with this other bass player. And
right. Mm,
I really like this combination of people who have played
mm-hmm.
before, but when I start grabbing them for this gig, one can't do
Mm-hmm.
it. So then
Mm,
it becomes something different, right?
mm, sure.
Yeah.
Sure,
So
sure, sure.
you started out in uh, you didn't start out playing piano.
No, I started out playing the violin.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, being brought up, actually, piano, I always wanted to play the piano, but I was born in Zagreb, Croatia. And when mom took us to the music school, all the piano teachers were booked out. So I was she was like, okay, what other instrument?
Ah,
And then they thought perhaps a violin because my grandfather played it. And also, the fiddle really is that Balkan, Eastern European sort of traditional instrument, isn't it? So
yeah.
my sister ended up playing the flute and I played the violin for 6 years.
Oh,
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it. But I guess singing was always on the cards. And when I went into the high school of music, I switched to singing because actually my solfege, the music theory teacher, said, "Hey, you're quite good with singing." I was always good like with, sight singing and with choirs and that kind of thing. And my violin mark wasn't that great at the end of the primary school, the 6 years. So then I switched and I got in and yeah, the rest is history. But another interesting thing, obviously today I'm singing jazz, but that time in the Croatia was, well, it was part of the Yugoslavia. It was still a communist country.
yes.
Not as bad as the Russians. We didn't have it as bad, but when you went into the music school, there was no. You didn't choose anything. You go and you study Western classical music.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was no jazz.
Right.
I mean, there's no ways. There was no musical theater. I mean, what's that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was, classical singing. And when I arrived to South Africa, it was early 90s. Also at the university, there wasn't much contemporary. I think there was one girl that was singing musical theater. And the rest was really composition and Western classical music. Then they slightly started introducing the more sort of indigenous musics, like through ethnomusicology and that kind of thing, but you couldn't
Yeah.
really study it and you couldn't study jazz. But jazz kept like, always like teasing my ear, like you'll like this. So I was a kid in Croatia, in the communist country, but like I said, we didn't have it so bad. So there were plenty American movies and cartoons always on our TV. So I loved watching the Tom and Jerry, the cartoon. So the first time I heard the sound of swing was a Tom and Jerry episode, and it's the episode when the white cat walks in, and she's like, bouncing and swaying her hips, and there's this like big band playing or something. And I'm like, what's that music? I love this music, swinging music of the Tom's cat. And that was that. I mean, I was just a kid, literally. And then when I was a teenager, I started like, like collecting my vinyls. And there was a very famous, pop singer in Croatia who covered Morrison's
Yeah.
moon dance or moonlight moon dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she covered it, she sang in Croatian, but she, used the same music, and I really liked that sound, and so it was always kind of like in my ear. And only while I was studying the classical singing, I definitely got into my own studies of standards, and subsequently, when I finished my teacher would have killed me. I mean, I was busy studying opera, and I listened to none of opera. I was just listening to jazz, and I was going out clubbing, dancing to house music. She would have killed me. But I knew I was studying a good technique, and I feel, Cathy, that classical, singing gave me, some tough vocal cords. Like, I mean, they say, like with dancing, if you dance ballet, you can dance anything. Yes and no,
Yeah.
because if you get that neck, you get that neck. You can't really dance hip hop, with the
Yeah,
neck
yeah.
like this. But it really, it taught me good, a vocal sort of muscle, and then I'm able to use it now in a different
Absolutely.
language altogether. But I'm grateful for that time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was
Mhm,
definitely, I mean, all the singers that I know who have done classical are
mhm,
much better off, you know.
mhm,
I mean, there's a number of people who just, they don't even practice, and they're good.
mhm.
That's
Mm,
not for me, but I mean, there are a number of
yeah.
people who do that.
Mhm.
Um,
Those are those natural singers, I call them. They're just, everything is everything well, I'm talking for myself. Everything I've learned over many, many, many years, they just like have it.
yeah,
It's placed. It's
yeah.
there.
I know it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. I
Great.
have some kids like that as well, and I often ask them, like, what did you do, to make that sound? And like a high note just goes like a yawn. And me, I'm going like, okay, do this, do that, place, support. And they'll usually go, I don't know. So my job is to try and figure it out and explain to them so that they know, and
Yeah,
they can improve still. But it's
yeah,
quite
yeah.
a fascinating thing.
Teaching
Do
is
you also
fun.
teach?
Yes, I do. I've taught for years, and I love teaching, and I always
I
learn
love it
from
too.
teaching, and
Mm,
um, I feel like I'm very empathetic, so I can
mm,
get into the student's point of view and see
mm,
what they're looking at and how they're looking at, and
mm,
I really like I love to do that. And
mm,
also, as you can see, I'm a very spiritually bent person, so
mm,
um, I really I feel like it's my job to kind of open that pathway for people, and
mm,
not they don't have to become a big philosopher, but you know, uh, awareness can be so
mm,
subtle and hidden,
mm.
you know,
Definitely.
and
Mm,
unconscious that even
mm,
if you just open one little tiny door and shine a light, that can really
mm,
be life changing, right? So I enjoy
absolutely.
that. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I had kind of what I consider kind of I kind of laugh at my training because it's very
Mm,
fitting for me and the way I operate. But I
mm,
did have I really didn't have a teacher until I was in my 20s,
mhm,
and I was in LA.
mm.
Even though I went to Berkeley, but I didn't go for
I
voice.
saw that. Wow. What did you study at Berkeley?
Well,
That's just
I
such a
played
great
flute.
institution.
and
Ah, a jazz flute,
And by the
Cathy,
way,
or
I wanted to play violin, but my mother said I
ah,
had the perfect lips for flute.
for flute.
so,
Wow,
yeah,
amazing.
so I went for flute and arranging and composition. I was like
Ah,
20, 20 and 21 around in there. And
amazing.
so when I left, that was when they got voice there.
Ah,
Yeah, but I was having a bit of trouble with my voice because I had been singing all my life, but with no lessons. So
mm,
um, that was the time when you would do a gig and you would do rock and funk and jazz,
mm,
and I didn't know
mm,
what I was really doing, and
mm,
so I was having some
mm,
trouble. And
mm,
I got help with that while I was in Boston, but then
mhm,
it was several years later after I had come to
mhm,
LA, more than several years, but
mhm,
found a really good teacher. Two friends of mine we
mhm,
all found this great teacher, and we watched her teach, and and we started teaching her method, which was
Mhm.
quite good and
Mhm.
very physically
Mm.
aware of what was going
Mm.
on. But you know,
Mm. So important.
I was never taught breathing until
Wow.
recent years, believe it or not.
Mhm. Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't know why. She did teach breathing to people, but
Mm.
whatever. I don't know
Mm.
why she
Mm.
decided not to teach me
Mm.
breathing. But
Mm. Mm.
so in more recent years, I've had more education about breathing, and
Mm.
I've realized that because of this chronic cough that I have, that my
Mhm.
breathing was probably compromised as well.
Mm.
So, um,
Mm.
in more recent years, I've
Mm.
actually been learning how it feels in a different way. When I was in my
Mm.
20s and 30s, I could sing well, and I was doing,
Mm.
you know, I don't know, it's just
Mhm.
interesting how it all went. You know, it's
Mm.
not, I didn't
Mm.
have the kind of standard vocal training, for sure.
Kathy, you laugh, but this is another thing we have in common. This is crazy. Also, didn't have a jazz vocal teacher. I only recently got this book, by the way. It's brilliant.
And that's by who?
Darman.
Darman, yeah.
Wow, amazing. But anyway, no, 15 years ago, like I said, I started, kind of focusing into jazz only in my late 30s. I found the piano teacher, and I wanted to, improve on my piano, and she helped me a lot with the language and with the composition. And I reached out to two vocalists here in Johannesburg, and we just couldn't get it together. I had like 2.5 lessons between the two of them, and they gave me some nice material which I still use today, but we just couldn't get the consistent, once a week thing. And then when I went to my piano teacher the one day, she says, "You can sing, you just need to learn the language. So let's learn it on the piano." And I did. And all the compositions that I wrote was piano compositions that then I ended up singing, learning the licks and whatever. And then I added the words to them, and the rest is history. And I would love to come for some lessons next time in LA to you and to other
Yeah,
jazz vocal teachers now at this stage in my life, actually, when
yeah,
I kind of know a little bit, but I've never been to a jazz vocal ever, actually,
yeah,
so for more than 2.5 lessons.
yeah.
So I'd love to experience that. Yeah.
Well, so where did you get your jazz experience? Because obviously you have a feeling and a concept of
Mm,
what jazz singing is. I mean,
sure.
and we'll hear some more of your singing, but
Mm,
so where did you get that? Did you get it from listening, like deep
listening.
listening
Hmm.
and
Deep listening and listening to, actually, there was maybe even, I can say, years that I didn't listen to any vocalists. I just listened to,
instrumental?
instrumentalists, and mostly tenor sax players and
Ah,
pianists.
ah,
Yeah, yeah. I just fell in love with that sound. And yeah, and then I started, when I started writing my own lyrics, then I discovered the great, what's his name now, um, Eddie Jefferson. And then I was like, shit, I have some studying to do in everything. How do you fit in all those words in the bar? And how do you even think of those words? I mean, you see him live. There's one video I have. It's just like, how do you do that? you know? So yeah, a lot of listening and copying and trying to find, my voice in it. And then it's this thing of like, I don't want to sound classical, but I don't want to sound like every other jazz singer, but that just comes from your own doing, I suppose. You know and I think the fact that I still have very much of that, Croatian kind of like tradition under my tongue. So inevitably, even if I sing a lick from one of these vocal jazz improvisation book, I'll copy what Daman and what's that wonderful lady's name is do. But if I do it, like if I'm at the gig, and I'm not obviously going to consciously trying to do a lick from the book, but I won't sound like that. I'll sound sort of like Ziza, and I think that's good. You know, at some point, I was, you know, I need to sound jazz, you know, but now I feel like, yes, I want to speak the language, but it's okay if I sound with if I have my little accent, it's okay, you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
because I think that's what this music is about. It's, you know, it's like
It's
if I can
honest.
call it, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a really great way of describing it, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a friend who was a teacher, and he was a pianist for Sarah Vaughan for 9 years. His name was,
Wow.
um, his name is, oh my God, his name just went out of my head. Carl Schroeder. And
Schroeder.
he taught at Musicians Institute here in LA. And
Mhm.
he was a real character, very big guy. He looked like Abraham Lincoln, and
Mhm.
um, and he would use all kinds of bad words in class, and just tell people, just really like lay it out, But he was great too, and
Mhm.
so his standards were high, very high,
Mhm. Mhm.
and there was a point where he and I got together and we were experimenting with what to teach vocalists
Right.
in order to scat better. And
Sure.
we tried out his way of teaching pianists how to
Mm.
improvise, and it worked
Right.
fantastically. It was great. But
Wow.
all this to say, he was very particular, right? And
Mhm.
he, out of all people, he would tell me, I love when people from different languages get up and scat. I love
Sure.
their syllables. You know,
Mm.
he
Mm.
he didn't he didn't need doobie bobby wowie. He didn't need
Mm.
anything like that. He could have like a Native American Indian going muchkakapakikatakako, whatever,
Mm.
as long as it was authentic,
Sure.
and
Mm.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I I think and it's funny because I was talking with Gerald Clayton, the pianist. Are you familiar with him?
Wow. Wow.
And
Wow.
he actually kind of leans away from calling what he does jazz. Which is
Mm.
interesting. He calls it free, and so
Right.
I think that's interesting.
That is so interesting. But you know, I was thinking about when I was in LA, I had a wonderful opportunity to watch that gorgeous French Amy Cyril
Yeah,
sing. Oh my God, and that French of hers when she scats, oh,
yeah.
it just creates a sound that is, you could eat it. I could eat it. It's so gorgeous.
She is really good, isn't she?
She is so good. And
Yeah.
on stage as well, she is just and so real. I mean, she arrived, she's as gorgeous as Button in a
Yeah.
gorgeous dress, but she kind of arrived with like a jersey in her hand and she just plonks it on the chair and she comes up and she sings and I mean that band, yeah, it was a New Orleans, it was like a tribute to the French heritage of the New Orleans. It
Yeah.
was fantastic. It was one of your theaters.
Yeah.
I can't remember where it was, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So her French really, I feel, I don't know, it helps her to, well, you know, it's legato, all of it, you
Yes.
know, the
Very
jazz language. So
flowing.
yeah, so I think
Yeah.
that roundness of French just helps her get those syllables out. I think
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really good.
it's
Another
good.
favorite
Yeah,
of mine is, well, I have a few favorites who are coming up now. One is
yeah.
Cecile McLaurin Salvant.
Ah, gorgeous.
It's
Absolutely. You just
fascinating.
want to,
Yeah.
yeah,
She's so good in so many different ways.
so good in in every way. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
are you familiar with um she's 22 years old, Samara Joy? Samara Joy?
you know what? Somebody forwarded something of yes, I do. Yes. She's also got that like all African American, right?
Yes.
Yes, that like gorgeous velvety sound like Cecile. Yes, I do know. Is she only 22?
Yes.
Oh God.
Exactly.
Oh.
Or she's reborn from somebody else. I mean, to
Definitely very mature sound.
very mature. Like she moved very quickly from being like kind of inexperienced, and very quickly, like over a period of 2 or 3 years, her I guess you could say level of maturity in her performance just like it's like this. And
Wow.
I heard her here with a friend of mine who's an incredible piano named Tamir Hendelman, and
Hmm.
they were just a duo. It was like it was it was mind blowing. And what was
Wow.
cool was it was a Monday night, and our big club here, Catalina's, was packed.
Yes, Catalina was closed when I was there. Oh man.
Yeah, it was totally sold out on a Monday night.
Wow.
And the
Wow.
girl is just incredible and just
Wow.
lovely, really lovely on stage, very, personable and stuff. I
Beautiful.
really, let's see, there was another singer I was thinking of too.
And are they all coming out of sort of institutions, colleges, or
Well,
just
I think Samara, she was actually a student of a friend of mine's in New
mhm,
York,
mhm,
Alexis Cole.
right,
But I think she also went to one of those New York
right,
universities of, jazz universities.
sure.
And
Hmm.
Cecile had to have classical
Well,
background, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
she can do classical, Broadway, jazz, all
Machine.
authentically. She's
Mm,
amazing. She really
mm,
is like incredible.
completely.
Yeah.
Great mind and great talent. She's
Yeah.
also an artist. I mean, have you seen her artwork, her
I
drawings,
don't
and
think so. No.
yeah, you must see. I mean, she's actually designed all her album covers, but
Oh.
she does, and I think she does also now embroidery and stuff. Now she's just, like when you said the God just went and gave everything to this one.
Right. It's so interesting, isn't
You'll
it?
have everything. Yeah, it is. But
When I
it's wonderful that
It's
we
wonderful,
witnessed
yeah.
them in this lifetime.
When I was in my 20s, my late 20s, let's see, yeah, late 20s. So I had this girlfriend, her name was Stephanie Haynes, and
Hmm.
she was the best jazz singer I had heard. She was definitely in the standard, out of the standard type of thing, right? And
Hmm.
she had been, I think she had been classically trained, and she also
Hmm.
had had been a real flute player, like trained,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
And she was like one of those jazz people, who was aware of everything, could hear
Hmm.
everything, knew composers and knew the lyrics to everything, and and she, much to my dismay, she had her book
Hmm.
had no numbers on it, and she didn't keep it in any order. And I kept trying as her friend to give her like an order so she could, deal with it easily. And it just, every time I would look back in the book, it was all out of order again, even though there were numbers and everything. Anyway,
That's
so
funny.
she and I were very good friends, and there was a period of time when we were doing very similar gigs in LA.
Right.
We were young, and she kept getting these incredible things happening. Like, she had an offer to record with, who is it? Oh, my names aren't very good.
Taylor.
It's not Cecil Taylor. It was somebody else, but it was like that, a piano player,
Yeah.
well-known piano player, like,
Wow.
and stuff like that. Would it just like would offer here,
Amazing.
and
Wow.
I was like working my ass off, I was working a lot, but I was definitely not, getting those kind of things. And for a minute, I was like, "Phew," I was bugged. And then,
Damn it. Yeah.
yeah, and then I realized, you know what? It has nothing to do with competition at all. It's
Mm,
really about your
mm,
own personal path. You know, if
definitely,
I
yeah.
want this, I have to do
Mm,
this,
mm,
because that's my path. I have to do
mm,
all of that to get there.
mm,
You know, it doesn't matter that she doesn't have
mm,
to do that.
mm.
Because I was
Sure.
doing, you know, this much stuff, you know, and she was doing this much stuff.
Mm. But
And
that's her path, yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was a very good lesson to learn early on, you know, and you know, that kind of,
You're so lucky to have learned at time in your life. I
yeah.
just want to interject here. Your school, Berkeley, is the most amazing school I've never been to, but and you know, again, I started jazz a bit late in my life, and by this stage, studying at Berkeley is still is a bit expensive, and it's not
Yeah,
really what I'm meant to do right now with my
yeah.
career and everything. But 3 years ago, so just before the no 4 years ago, 2018, I took myself to Berkeley, Valencia in Spain,
Oh,
and I did like a summer course there with the teenagers. But it was wonderful. But it was also just really to get a sense of this wonderful school that you had an opportunity to study at. And one of the things they taught us, it was a class. I don't know what they called this particular class, but they put us all in one room and they said something on the lines of like, don't compete with us because it's not about that. To cut a long story short, basically they said, if I ask every single one of you in this room, and there was maybe about 150 of us, not one will have the same desire of what you want to do with this career. And it's so true.
yeah,
I mean, we may have similar desires, but it can't be the same.
right.
So why are you going to compete with someone else? You've got your own path to craft, and you go about doing it quietly. Besides, I feel like your music breathes like that. You've got to give it life. You've got to work and give it, and then it gives back to you, not to the other person. Who cares? I mean, you can
Yeah,
admire them, but
yeah.
you need to have that relationship with it, isn't it?
Absolutely true. I
So
couldn't agree more. Um,
yeah,
how about
that's it.
that we go and hear something? Um,
Sure.
you had shown me something. Let's see, where are we? Yep, and then uh, this one, House on a Hill, right?
Sure. This is my trio. Me playing the Rhodes, and yeah.
Cool.
It was quite stressful. The cameras are like right here on us, and we were in the room. There was a tiny room. And so, yeah, she was like, phew, we did this. It was fun. It was fun. People enjoyed those like interviews in between the songs. People enjoyed that when they
Cool.
watched. But yeah,
Yeah. All right. Well, let's watch a little.
sure.
Gaku, 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 gaku. Gaku, gaku, ga. La 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 We are lost to fly free and find our spirits and our heads, which we lost among the crowds and things which do not even exist. Funny, isn't it? Now, don't you think? Between the silence and despair, we are given second chance to restore our faith in ourselves. We are lost to fly free and find our spirits and our heads, which were lost among the crowds and things which do not even exist. Funny, isn't it? Now, don't you think? We are gold, we are free. It is in the music, hear its message, sing now. La la la. La 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 la
I grew up in Zagreb, Croatia. And music was in those sort of Balkan countries, ex-Yugoslav countries and other Balkans, kind of part of your life. It's kind of like here, everybody loves music, everybody sings, everybody can play many instruments, Mom took us to the music school for a very practical reason, because she's a very practical person. She didn't want us in the streets all the time, so she says no, the kids must play instrument, get them off the streets. And somehow we persisted. I played the violin for 6 years. This was the primary school, and my sister played the flute. And then I went into the high school, and I was always really good with like oral and solfege, and I was always very good with ear, and so I went into the high school of music with singing. And then I was 16, I watched Monterey Jazz Festival, and I saw Janis Joplin sing. And that for me was literally, I came home and I packed up all my vinyls that I had up until then, which was mostly pop and and started listening to that kind of like conscious rock, and a lot of lyrics and the reggae and the lyrics and the messages that always like appealed to me.
I like that term, conscious rock. That's good.
Yeah. Neil Young, and
Yeah, yeah.
It's one of my originals.
Round and in circles we go. Who knows the right way to go again now? Only the tough get that right. Only the tough ones can go again. I cannot find my own way, hoping to find my own way back home. I do not hear my own voice, hoping to find my own way back home now. as we go. Who knows the right way to go again? Yeah, only the tough, they get the right. Only the tough ones can go again now. I cannot find my own way, hoping to find my own way back home. I do not hear my own voice, hoping to find my own way back home now. I know that I'll sing again like the lady. Yeah, I know that I'll sing again like that lady. I know that I'll sing again like that lady in a movie show.
Wow, very cool.
Thanks, Cathy.
So I have a question for you.
Mm,
It's an
sure.
interesting question. So it's really a writing question. Writing and performing. I guess, when you're performing your own material,
Mhm.
and I ask this because I've gone through various states of mind about this myself over the years. But so let's see, I'm not sure how to phrase this question. So there's, let me start by saying my own experience, and then I can ask you about
Sure.
your experience with it. So um, I have, I don't know, about 60 songs that I've written, something like that. And I not only do I like to record, if I'm making a record, I like to at least record one and sometimes more of my own material. But live performances, this is where the question really is I want to do original songs, but I also want to sometimes I wonder how they're coming across, to the audience. Not the musicians, they'll play anything, right?
Sure, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
But the audience sometimes, I mean, I know the songs that are favorites of people. I know that. But sometimes I just wonder, uh, like, is this is this a good song um, to sing at this gig? And should I be kind of insistent with myself about adding more of my original songs to the sets? Anyway, do you get my drift? It's like,
Definitely.
yeah. Do you ever go through thoughts like that?
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, I want to please I do want to please my audience
Yeah,
first,
yeah,
Of course, I want to have fun.
yeah,
But for me, the fun is like choosing the musicians I want to collaborate with on let's call it the project, the gig,
yeah, yeah,
Like for me, as I said to you, I love just choosing the musicians and then I'll sit and think of their names in my head, and I'll put a set list together, which I think we can play together, you know. And so I like that process, and I like the rehearsal, but I think with regards to the definitely it's a kind of a gig that you're doing, and you sort of trying to think what can you push. And for me, most of the times people really enjoyed the original material, because it's kind of like at least the kind of material that I've written so far, it's jazzy. I mean, there's you know, one or two, you know, the sort of like standard grooves,
Yeah.
you know. So I feel like maybe that kind of jazzy sound opens itself up to you know, the likes of the audience, and they respond to it, and then generally say, no, do more of your own music, even if we are hired to do more kind of like, you know, the more familiar standards, they call it, you know.
Yeah.
But it is totally, and there'll be a time when I'll be in my file and I'll go like, oh no, not that tune. I don't think people, you know, I don't think for this audience. I think we need to think more on the lines of the likables, the easy on the ear, like the song that I sang. I mean, it's at the movies. I mean, you know, that yes, it's got I think profound lyrics. This was a specific time in my life. It was a hard time in my life. But there's nothing not to like. It's kind of like almost you can even play it background. It sort of, you know, goes, you know, in the nice little easy 5. It's a moody key, you know, kind of thing. You don't have to really strain to listen, you know. So this is my kind of tune where I say, okay, it's an interesting time signature. It's a little bit edgy, but not too edgy to like frighten people, you know. And then I have a few like bossa nova kind of songs as well. So the moment you hit that groove, even if it's an original, people kind of box it into that Latin, and they're happy and they're grooving with you, you know. But yeah, no, totally. I find, Cathy, I'm sure you can also agree, like especially with this, you know, the lockdowns and whatever, the attention span has gone to like nothing.
Yeah.
People click on things and literally listen to like 11 seconds of it, and they stop, like, you know. But I won't stop writing the songs that are for listening. I'll write them for my albums and for whatever it's worth, even if it's just for me to get it out. But yeah, it's quite a thing, and I think that's also another. Let's go back to the wonderful, you know, Cecile McLaurin, like a great artist like that, you know, she'll know exactly what song to choose at that, you know, and it can be the weirdest shit, but it's just how she framed it, you know, and how she sold it to us, you know, and of course how she sang it, you know. But I think that's also all of us. That's part of our craft, I think, is choosing the right repertoire for that audience, I think.
Yeah, and also, of course, the well, the last time I saw Cecile she was with her pianist. He has a weird name. He's from New York. He's a black artist. It's not Spencer. It's I forget his name. It's very unusual. Let me go look for his name. You probably know.
I don't know if I'll know the name, but I'll know the play, I'm sure.
Yeah, he has. It's kind of Cecile McLaurin Salvant, and she plays with, let's see, Sullivan Fortner.
Sullivan Fortner, okay.
Yes, do you know his name?
No, never.
Oh, you got to check him out too. He's incredible, and the two of them, they, in fact, in the beginning of the pandemic, they came on for like 2 hours with no break, and they were just running through all kinds of songs. And he knew, she'd say blah blah blah, and he'd like, yeah, and it was all different styles. It was really pretty incredible. I mean, they are a match made in heaven.
Wow, that beautiful.
Was incredible. And you know who else I saw who was really great? And let's see if my mind is working. for names. It was Dee Dee Bridgewater and
Oh,
the pianist. God damn. Okay, I have to go looking again. Dee Dee Bridgewater, and yeah, and she's been working with him. Uh, she's been working with him recently a lot. Let's see. Um, come on, come on. She has been. Oh, he's such a great piano player. Um,
it's wonderful when
Wow,
you get that match.
I know. Dee Dee Bridgewater net worth. That's the first time I've ever seen a jazz.
Yeah, that's interesting. They don't really list the jazz
Okay,
musician.
Bill Charlap.
It's Charlotte.
Bill Charlap. Are you familiar with him?
No, no.
Okay, he's another pianist that you would like to listen to. And the two of them,
Wow.
so the
Wow.
first there's Cecile and Sullivan, who can do anything, and they're kind of in this period of their growth and development that they're kind of in their highlight, it's just kind of a middle area. And then there's Samara Joy with Tamir Hendelman, and she's 22, but you can see that she has more growing, but she's still incredibly mature. And then there's Dee Dee and Bill, who are over 70, probably both of them. And
Sure.
then you see these two masters who can turn on a dime, and it's just great. I love seeing these small groups that people are doing now, It's really wonderful.
Definitely. Beautiful conversation and really just listening,
Yeah.
Yeah, my new album's also, it's not a band. It's in fact I'm recording it in bits. I go in with different musicians whenever I get a gap to record.
Yeah.
But it's not about a band sound. It's about a Ziza sound. So I'll even I did actually two pieces with just the bass and voice.
Yeah.
One is with the upright bass player and the other one with electric. And then I've got this like a vocal trio with another two girls of mine. So yeah, it's about really just, I suppose, getting to know yourself and real communication, subtle communication, I suppose, like that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
You've recorded a bunch of albums, Cathy. I think you have like 14 or something.
Yeah, I think I have
Wow.
15 or something. Yeah.
Wow.
It's good.
Amazing.
It's,
Amazing.
a lot of the more recent ones a I've had um, an angel,
Mhm.
and so he's helped me with probably at least four of them. So that's really nice, and working on two more that are uh, instrumentally finished, but I have to, redo the vocals on. So
Right.
those are kind of the next ones in line, unless unless I can pull it together to put out some singles, which means that I have to go to iMovie and make little movies with
Yeah.
these songs that exist, and I'd like to, but I don't know if I will. But, just because time,
Yeah,
time and
sure.
desire.
Sure. And do you also go, well, I suppose depending on the project, but do you sometimes just go in and record a whole bunch of things, or is it, different songs at different times?
Normally it's all at once. So, like I just stopped a few months ago. I had revisited a performing project with eight musicians, instrumentalists, and myself. And my friend, the bass player, was the arranger, and he and I chose songs, and I of course came up with some ideas for arrangements, but he was really the arranger, and so we had performed with that probably three and a half years ago, but it was fun. It was really fun. So we decided to bring it back. And a few months ago, we wanted to record. He also owns a studio too. So we got the studio dates together. Then we got 2 gigs before the studio dates so we could groove in more. And we had a videographer. And so that's actually still in development. The music's all recorded, and we have a few overdubs, but very little. And then singing. I have to redo the singing. So that was, the music was, there was a bunch of music, and we did it like that. Pretty much I do that. Although business-wise, I think now is a great time to put out singles. It's not as costly.
Right, okay.
And I think because of people's attention spans, that singles are actually a really good way. Like, you record a single, you do it, maybe make a little movie with it, an iMovie or something. You put it out. You can, hoo-ha, there's blah, 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 and there's some attention. And then in another 2 months, you do it again. And then you have another hoo-ha moment, and then 2 months later you do it again. So as we know, being in the public's view is extremely valuable for an artist, right? In a few different ways. So I think that's a really good thing to do. Not that I'm doing it right this second, but I really do think it's good. And I have a few friends who are doing it, and they kind of are almost apologetic about it, but I don't think it's apologetic. I think it's actually smart.
I think so, because there's so much music and so many great artists, and people putting out stuff. So I'm learning here. Definitely, I'm going to consider that, because, as I said, this new album, I've recorded 3 pieces out of 10. So I've got 3 songs. They're mixed as well. So I should maybe just put out a song, or all 3 in different,
I think it's really just exactly what I said. I think it's great. You're being
to say, I'm alive, I'm here.
And people are excited, and they can focus on one song easy, right? No problem. And I don't know if you're competent in iMovie. I certainly taught myself. And you can,
I do it on my phone, definitely. Yeah. It's great.
So you can make a little video too, and it's I think it really is great. And while you're doing those 3 songs, then you can work on another song or 2 in the studio. So yeah,
that's a really good idea. I'm gonna take you up on that, Cathy.
I think it's really smart to do that. I really do. I think it's it's kind of a new format, or a new progression, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's a great idea. Actually, in this No Net that we're doing, we're actually going to pick 3 songs that we feel are, communicate the best, and we're going to work on promoting one of those songs, or 2 or 3, and with hopes of, we would love to continue playing with that group and playing the music. It's really, really fun music, and so we're going to try and do that, actually. That's going to take a little while, I'm sure it'll take half a year at least, or, just to get it all together. But it's nice. And John...
Sounds like a great project.
Yeah, and my bass player is very... it really feels like it's a partnership on this project, which is hardly ever. It's usually me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do. Yeah. Especially as a woman, I think. Well, we are focused and we work hard, but then the rest depends on us, and then or sometimes they don't. Then you got to, say, right, this is what's happening.
Exactly. it's funny, and I always joke that my dad was a sax player and my sister
Uh-huh.
sang and my mom had been a singer earlier. But I always joke like if my father had told me that as a singer I would be getting the work for everybody,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah.
might have changed my mind about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's also another balancing act, to be nice, but to be strict, but to be encouraging and but also straightforward if you don't like something.
Yeah, you said a mouthful right there. Yeah, we have a big job. Yeah.
Yo,
Not to mention, I think singing is actually one of the harder instruments. You know,
definitely.
you know,
In fact, now when people ask what is the hardest instrument, they maybe think a harp or a violin. I say it's voice. It's the voice. It's the hardest. It really is. And
Yeah.
never mind, it's inconsistent. Every morning you
Oh,
wake up is something else. It does. You can't eat this. You
yeah,
can't wear tight clothes if you want to breathe normally.
yeah.
Um, that's just a tiny little thing. But then the placing, the mouth, the support, the sound around you, the sound inside you. It's crazy.
And not only that, oh, who's that in the background?
My little Nala, she's woken up and she's like, where am I?
Well, and not only that, but then you have to deliver the lyrics. And then that's a
Yes,
whole
thank you.
other thing. That brings in just a huge area of, concentration and learning and delivering.
Mm. No, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes, especially as I get older, I think she needs to be let out.
I think so.
Can
I,
I do
yes,
that?
please. She definitely has that look like, hello.
What's going on? So, give me 1 second.
Sure. I can actually go and let me see if I can find another thing, and then we'll continue talking. But Ziza, love is the drug.
Okay. Oh, that's a nice video.
Said ain't no big thing to wait for the bell to ring. No, it ain't no big thing, the toll of the bell. Aggravated, sped for there, I drove downtown to the red light place. Jump up, bubble up, what's in store? Life is a drug and I need to score. Showing up, hit and run. The boy meets girl where the beat goes on. Stitched up tight, I can't shake free. 'Cause life is a drag, got a hook on me. Oh, catch the buzz. Love is the drug I'm thinking of. Oh, baby, can't you see? Love is the drug. Love is the drug. Sydney Nisi, antenna. Thank you. No, it ain't no big thing. Cause late at night I park my car, I stake my case at the singles bar. Face to face, toe to toe, and at heart to heart as we hit the floor. Lumber up, limbo down. We locked in grace, we stumble round. I say go, he says yes. We dim the lights, you can guess the rest. Oh, catch the buzz. Love is that drive I'm thinking of. Oh, can't you see? Love is the No, it ain't no big thing waiting for the bell to ring. No, it ain't no big thing waiting for the bell to ring. No, it ain't no big thing waiting for the bell to ring. No, it ain't no big thing waiting for the bell to ring. No, it ain't no big thing waiting for the bell to ring. No, it ain't no big thing waiting for the bell to ring. No, it ain't no big thing waiting for the bell to ring. No, it ain't no big thing waiting for the bell to ring.
Do you recognize that song? It's nice to watch these old videos with you again. You know, you're like, oh God, remember that. But you recognize the song. I mean, at least the lyrics, not the tune. I've changed it.
You know, I have to say I do not.
So, well, it was a disco hit in the 70s by Roxy Music. Love is the drug.
Oh.
Ain't no thing. Don't wait for the bell to ring.
Oh.
Ain't no thing. It was a disco, and so I just took the lyrics and I made it into a bluesy sort of number.
Wow. Well, it was really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, very effective.
Thank you.
You do something too that I like, and I think it comes from probably listening to instrumentalists. Like at the end when you were, jamming,
Mm-hmm.
you find a good lick that's complementary to what the musicians are doing, and you repeat it.
Sure. Sure,
And yeah, I
sure.
think that comes from listening to instrumentalists, because that's what instrumentalists do, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Must, yeah, yeah. Must be, must be. Yeah, it happens obviously, you just listen, and then when it comes, it's like a gel for everyone else. It's wonderful. It becomes like a jam,
Yeah.
which I like, especially in a live gig like this, where for albums, that's where you need a good producer to say, okay,
Yeah.
cut, cut, cut.
Yes, definitely.
Uh, I think for me, I mean, I've heard some albums where I listen and I go like, "Ah, but if it's alive, it's alive. But if an album sounds like a gig, I don't know. I'm not gonna really listen to it many times. I personally feel if it's an album, do cuts. That somebody produce it to where it sounds like when you're reading a book. So don't have these like endless tales at the end and improvisations that are too long. And for me, I feel if it's an album, depending, I suppose, what kind of an album it is, but as a vocal album, I like it to be quite neat and produced when it comes to vocal albums for me, unless it's just a jam, a live thing. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, no, I was just while you were saying that, I was thinking about this one song that I wanted to make a single out of,
Hmm.
and I had a guest on it, and it was kind of a long production, and it was on my jazz chamber orchestra record, and
Hmm.
when I re-listened to it, I thought I didn't like some of it. Like I didn't like the vocals being together on some of it.
Right.
Uh, and I like the guy I was telling you about, the bass player who arranged
Hmm.
this last project. Well, there was a project I did a few years ago called Straight Ahead to the UK, where
Hmm.
a friend of mine, an English guy, had brought me over
Hmm.
and we had recorded this project,
Hmm.
and it never got out into the world. First of all, because he didn't finish paying the engineer for one
Oh,
reason.
shame.
And also, I wasn't sure I liked what we had done yet.
Right.
And so one thing led to another, and I got it out of Hawk,
Hmm.
and I happened to bring it to John, this bass
Hmm.
player who's arranger and a musical director for people
Hmm.
and an
Hmm.
engineer. He has his own studio.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so what we did was listened in deep depth, and we removed some of the things and we put in some new players.
Hmm.
And part of the problem was that the studio, even though it was, supposedly a really good studio in England,
Hmm. Hmm.
the engineer didn't really separate everybody. So you
Mm.
couldn't tune one person without affecting something else.
Right.
And, it was screwed up because of that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it was quite the project. We redid
Hmm.
it and brought in some new people in LA,
Hmm.
and I redid
Hmm.
some of the vocals, um and John remixed it, and it came out. I have to say, I was so impressed with his uh you know co-producing
Mm.
and
Amazing.
his mixing. It's just
Mm.
really
Mm.
sounded good to me.
Mm.
And now, why did I bring that up? We were talking about, what were we talking about?
You're talking about the albums, and I was asking you, about producing, and how do you feel about overproducing and or recording
Oh,
something that sounds like a
overproducing.
jam?
Yeah.
Mm.
So John, like, there was one cut on it that he
Hmm.
kept taking out stuff. Like I had actually had Norma Winstone sing on this one song. It was a
Wow.
John Abercrombie song that I had written lyrics to.
Wow.
It was a
Wow.
great song, and Norma and I have a very similar tone.
Hmm.
So sometimes you really, you know, other people especially couldn't really tell who was singing,
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
even though we were having a great time together,
Mhm.
I was in love with the experience, right? And John
Mhm.
was coming at it from a different point of view. So he
Mhm.
kept removing things, and
Mhm.
which made me uncomfortable at first, but then
Mhm.
in hindsight, I
Mhm.
thought, yeah, that was a really good idea. So I was
Mhm.
listening to this compared to what, and maybe I just
Mhm.
convinced myself maybe I can actually use him to
Mhm.
empty that out, because
Mhm.
he has such a good musical point of view about that. But I'd like
Yeah.
to make that it's the song compared to what,
Mhm.
and I had
Mhm.
Tierney Sutton on it, and
Mhm.
I and
Wow.
we have we have different, such different sounds. Not like Norma and I. Tierney and
Mhm.
I really sound different,
Mhm.
and I think that I can empty it out
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
have it sound better
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
now that it's like how many years
Mhm.
later,
Mhm.
but I
Oh.
to go
Mhm.
ahead and move on it to make I
Mhm.
think it's a great song to do a single with
Mhm.
right now compared to what, try to make
Mhm.
it real, but compared to what, it's perfect. And but I really
Amazing.
do
Do
need
it.
the sound a little different, you know. Also, the arranger on that is a dear friend of mine, this man named Bevan Manson, and that was while Trump was in office, and my friend Bevan unbelievably went into this whole rap, and it was about Trump, but he never said the word Trump, but it was so funny, man. And I really want
That's
to put that
hilarious.
version out.
Ah, brilliant. I love it.
How many recordings have you made?
I've only got three out, two studio albums and the live one, the Standard Bank one. And this will be my fourth album, but third studio album.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just endless, learning and discovery. When I did the first one, I really didn't know much, but I had a really great producer, veteran trumpet player, and that kind of like opened doors up for me and definitely ears. And Cathy, that whole album, the first album, I recorded the guys in 2 days. Obviously, they left. I'm now listening to a mix, and I hate every single phrase that came out of my mouth.
Oh my
Literally,
God.
the 10 songs, I'm like, I'm re recording this. But you know what I didn't like? I still had like a leftover of not classical phrasing, but more poppy phrasing. So I didn't like my phrase endings. And I didn't want any vibrato on that album, not a single note. I just wanted it to sound like a clean, gorgeous, rich, like Coltrane tenor saxophone, but no vibrato, nothing, because of what I was trying to say. And I did it. I paid another couple of thousands of rands
Oh.
to re-sing everything. But my teacher again, said, like you're gonna have to live with this album. So do it, even if it is, gonna cost you time and money. You need to love it 10 years from now. And I still do. I mean, I listen to it and I'm like I was a kid, and I like listen to what I was saying there, the choice of pieces and what I've written then. But I like it. It was me then, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
it's an interesting process.
You know,
Yeah, it's very interesting. I know. You know,
you
it's a
learn.
reflection of that moment in time.
Yeah.
And I did two albums. I remember one with let's see. Well, I guess I can't remember the order, but I did this one duo record,
Hmm.
and I think it was probably I had so much vibrato on the whole thing.
Hmm.
Very like I thought, who is that singing? It's like way more than I would normally have. And I
Hmm.
think it was because my sister had died recently before that,
Hmm.
and I was dedicating the record to her, and I even had a song on that I found an old tape recording of my sisters and I singing this one song, and I put that on, and then I sang it with the pianist, and I was very, and so I think that's why I had a lot of vibrato, but
Mm,
it,
mm.
it was just what it was. It was the
Yeah,
moment,
it was.
and I couldn't possibly redo that record because it
Mm,
was a duo,
mm,
and it was
mm, mm,
very,
mm.
very interrelated, me and the
Sure,
pianist. So
sure.
yeah, but yeah, it's very, like we said, singing is the hardest instrument.
And singing is the hardest instrument, man.
There's so much that we
But
have
I still love it.
to do, yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
So do you travel through Europe and perform?
I haven't done that yet. I started doing that sort of my own little investigating
Yeah.
before the pandemic hit, and then that was that. And so I think I'll go back into that. And next time I come to LA, I'll do the same. I'd love to phone you up and maybe we meet at the jazz place. I come to one of your gigs and see what I could what doors I can open. Now Europe for me, I mean we migrated to South Africa. It's almost been 30 years now, and so traveling to Europe has for years been just to visit family and that. And then again, I only really got my career going maybe 15 years ago, so it hasn't been that long a time. um, I've only got these 2 3 albums, so I think that's the next step for me to go and open some doors there. Yes, there are a few in Croatia, in Zagreb, but nowhere else, although I have friends. So there's definitely things in pipeline, like Germany and Austria. I can definitely set myself up there somewhere, but it's also to see how I'm going to do it. It's always about the cost of getting there, to try maybe even find sponsoring. But even just to Cape Town, I mean, I ended up going to Cape Town in February before the pandemic, and booking the musicians there, which turned out to be the most wonderful thing, because musicians in Cape Town are just so hot. They're amazing, amazing players. So it worked out, but I just couldn't bring my band down because this one couldn't, I couldn't get the money, and da, 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 and it's costly. But I think now that I have the albums and I have the charts looking really decent, I could probably just show up in, I don't know, in Paris and play and find players and just play.
Yeah.
But I haven't done that yet. It's also just been the pandemic. So I'm hoping to do that.
Yeah.
I did reach out to one of the big festivals. Wasn't the North Sea, one of them. And at that point, when I reached out a couple of years ago, I wasn't really even known here. So the organizers very, really kindly said, look, between the big stars and our stars in our country, we want to pull in people that are a little bit kind of like more in between. At that moment, I didn't even have a following here. So yeah, the same with said the Ronnie Scotts in London. They said if you can fill up a club, you can have it. So I've kind of like scratched at places, but I haven't put anything together yet. But hopefully I will.
Yeah, it's
You
interesting.
know how it is.
I do know how it is. It's really interesting. I mean, over my lifetime career, I would say like probably 25, 30 years ago, it was a real different scene then.
Mm,
I mean, computers were kind of new, you know,
mm,
and you
mm,
sent your you sent your PR pack out snail mail,
mm,
to
mm,
Europe.
mm,
And
mm.
I would get a workshop somewhere, and then I would build from there. I'd contact,
Right.
say, well, can you get me a gig too? Yes. Okay. So, and then I'd move a little further away, and I'd say, look, I have a gig in a workshop, around this date.
Mm,
Can you?
mm,
So I was
mm,
really hands-on making it, but now it's a real different thing. I think the impression that I get is like part of it is, of course, the people who have a name, who are really making a
mm,
mark, who are noticed. a lot, and their, I suppose, their management, and booking people, getting them into concerts. And then the other thing is, what I notice is that people who are already over there, or they already have gigs that they go over for, so they're kind of settled in it, then they can bring you over. So I think part of it is that as well. Like I was
Sure.
speaking to my friend yesterday who lives in England, and she was going to Lithuania and then Maltese.
Wow.
It's like,
Wow. Yeah.
and that's what she does. She travels, and she is not right now. She's not even getting those gigs herself. It's the band that's hiring her. And
Ah, I
so,
see. I see.
yeah, it's very interesting, what's happening. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so far away that I really have to. I mean, I could just go somewhere and, let's say for 2 or 3 weeks and just work on it, make connections and then come home again and then maybe go back. But uh, it's a little more. I feel like a little more definite, invitations are necessary over here, from where I
No,
am.
sure. No,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'm doing a little bit of that scratching, although not at the moment. I'm more focused on the music here, and I've had some beautiful projects and collaborations in Johannesburg, which I'm very proud of. So I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm just cocooning here and working on my little bits here, but I'll get out there and I'll start scratching, and I know I'll be playing in Europe soon, even if it's
Yeah.
just a few clubs
I think your
with
music would go
friends.
great in Europe, I think you'd be very
Yeah,
welcome. Yeah.
sure, sure. Thanks. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah. And I see by your I'm kind of off to the side. I have some of your bio up, and so you've also been doing some studio stuff too, right? Like some.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I haven't done any movie tracks or anything for ages, but yeah, I mean, I've featured on some albums and I've recorded my own, but I haven't done any, yeah, uh, movie feature or anything for a while. Yeah, that was a long time ago. What you're reading, I'm sure.
And you also have recorded classical. It says with
That compilation,
this is Gary
yeah.
Van Riet.
Van Reed, yeah, that was a while ago. We're still collaborating. He's a DJ
Oh,
and electronic music producer, although he loves all music, and he's an great vinyl collector. He's got like 7,000 vinyls. He's a great fan of Donna Summer. She's his girl. He's
ah,
got everything Donna Summer's ever recorded. And when I'm talking Cathy, let's say Donna Summer recorded 10 albums. He will have different pressings of this one, all the pressings that she ever pressed, from Germany to the US to the Africa. Of each of those albums, he will have different. This is what he means by full collection of Donna Summer. So he's a crazy guy. So every now and again we collaborate and we do these like more kind of, yeah, it's studio. It's him on me on keys, him on keys, producing some kind of background thing on top of which I sing, He also plays the flute. So we have fun, yeah. But yeah, that project was a long time ago. I was still studying classical voice. But so much fun actually, just to get out of the classical and just to kind of like breathe a different air and learn about mic technique as well. I learned actually, I even sang with DJs. I remember at one stage I would get up on stage, the DJs were playing vinyls with no vocals. This was house music. And I would get up and I would freestyle. But when I say freestyle, I wasn't rapping. I can't do that. But I was coming up with lyrics on top of the grooves they were doing. And I think I learned to improvise like that actually
ah,
before at least noodle away. I mean, there'd be tracks, and my best would be when people were dancing, and then I would come on to the dance floor to dance with them, and there'd be my friends, and they go, "Oh, were you singing?" So that means I was blending so well, and for me that was a good compliment, because I wasn't sitting on top of the music, you know. So,
That's really interesting.
but yeah.
That's a very different way of coming into improvisation.
Oh my gosh, I've done all gigs, Cathy. I'm sure you can say the same.
Yes, there are a number of interesting gigs that we get offered and we do.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the one time this guy gives me a list of all the Disney songs, and he knows that I sing jazz. I'm like, okay, right. Then I just give him, then I still email back, and I literally scrape down all of that list. And in a very nice way, I give him all the standards. I think your guests will love that better than the Disney. And I think against Disney, I love Disney, but I can't sing it, you know. And there was one song that we made a compromise on. It was like a South African pop song or whatever. I said, okay, fine, I'll do that. And you know what? His guests loved. In fact, I often get people say, we love your music, when I was singing the standards, because I was doing them, you know, sort of my way, you know, and that was also a nice compliment. And anyway, I didn't end up singing the Disney, which I was lucky there.
Good for you.
Yeah. I thought, oh God, no, not in this lifetime.
Well, I will say, since it sounds like you'll be coming to LA sometime in the future,
Yeah.
let me know a number of months ahead, and
I will.
maybe I can get a gig for you and a workshop.
That'll be amazing, Cathy. I would love that. And I would definitely love to come for a lesson or two to you as well.
Oh, sure. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Thank
That's for
you.
sure. Where in LA are you? Which area?
I'm in the San Fernando Valley, and so
Okay.
from Torrance, it depends on traffic, but I'd say 35 to 40 minutes in
Okay.
normal traffic, right up the
Hmm.
405 freeway, actually.
Hmm.
So it's actually one of the less complicated, um, traveling.
Drugs. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, that you can do. But that would be fun. That would be fun to have you here.
Oh, you're on. I'm so coming.
Great. Okay.
Next year, I'm there like a bear.
Okay.
And I'll let you know. And I won't bring my ski boots. My sister laughed at me. So January was pretty like hot here, but I'm thinking it's quite cold there. So I arrived with these like, well, Nike, but ski boots. They're really warm. She laughed at me every day of my stay there. And it really wasn't that bad. It's never that bad in California. She says, that'll teach you to come to California with ski boots. So I know not to bring that next time I come.
Do you generally come a certain time of year?
Well, I'm just sort of, I suppose, restricted by school holidays.
Oh,
So it'll probably be like next year, August, I may come. It's a whole month of holiday for me. And like Christmas time and that, it's
Yeah.
easy,
yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, I think it's been about 2 hours in our strange, technological, improvisational. So I'm gonna go, and now I'm gonna dive in to find out what the heck was happening and how I can fix it.
yeah. And Cathy, thank you so much for your time and for having me.
Oh, you're
And
welcome. My pleasure, and thank you for giving me 2 hours of your time.
for your love. Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. And what joy to have met you, Like I said, I've just Googled you and you came up, and I'm like, she does what I do. That's me. although I don't know where you find time to do all these hangs, because it was just, it's, time consuming, and you listened and you gave of your time and energy to embrace us all. So thank you so much. I'm
You're
really
welcome.
just
My total
privileged.
pleasure.
Thank you to
Yeah,
be on your show. Thank you.
my total pleasure. And definitely keep me informed about
Will
stuff that's
do.
happening in your life. And
Will
yeah,
do.
if you have a mailing list, put me on your mailing list.
Will do. Will do.
Okay.
Thank you, Cathy.
All right, sweetheart.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, and have a great rest of the evening, right?
You too. Enjoy your day. Yeah, I'm gonna go to bed now.
Oh.
It's 11:30. Maybe have a glass of wine and then have a good day, Cathy.
Thank you, sweetie. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.